Now, why this case study is there in our course actually? So, when we deal with a technology transfer and IP management, when we are in a now the scenario, it is a little bit, we can say, the contemporary scenario we are sharing, and what are the challenges, so that you can get the idea that when we are talking about technology transfer and when we are talking about the IP management in a complex scenario, what can be the solution, or what kind of scenario may arise. And I will say that COVID is a right scenario, and lot of deliberations happen during this particular COVID studies actually, or a COVID scenario. Now, patent pool is one of the, we can say, the strategy which is explored when we are dealing with the IP management. And also in that patent pool there is a cross licensing. So we can say it is a classic example for IP management and technology transfer. Now I just staged the give you the idea so that you will appreciate more what was the scenario, what was the challenges, and why WHO is deliberating on this, or at a world level, or at that global level, why that discussion about that patent waiver and the IP rights which is going on. Now, when we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, major jurisprudential question was like a challenge. Like in the intellectual property system, we have seen in week 1, I guess, if I correctly remember, that what is the basis for intellectual property system. And in that, we have emphasized that labor theory is there, incentivization theory is there. That is the two important, we can say, the approaches or angles which are taken into consideration when this IP system is developed. Obviously, social welfare is another, we can say, angle. So, what happened that social welfare and this labor theory and incentivization. Now, if we try to match that particular thing, then this current scenario about a waiver of a patent, I will say it is not matching. And we will do, or we will go into details about that particular like questions and what was the deliberation and why we are not, actually we should say that we both are not favoring that patent waiver. And we are very concretely, we can say that that is not a right solution, and we will keep on deliberating, but probably that deliberation will not be successful considering the waiver. And we confidently say that because somebody has invested time, energy, money, and I will just share with you the number also and the details also, and what are the efforts also which scientists put for developing the molecule or for developing such kind of a vaccine, that is that particular outcome. So, if we see that background, and we will deliberate on that actually. So, and then we will realize that if that much efforts are gone, and when our jurisprudential understanding is like give the incentives, give the that we should appreciate the labor, the kind of efforts which are put by the creator, then we are somewhere like a not giving the justification for that jurisprudential base of the IP system. And that was the kind of a deliberations worldwide it was going on, and there was a different opinions, and many people they have said that there should be the waiver, and yes, there was a group that they were saying that no, there should not be the waiver. Okay, so that debate was there. And then the reward system, whatever we are talking, incentivization, reward system, all these things are like discussed, or all these points are very important when we are demanding something. When we are demanding that waiver, we are like a we are like not, I feel that we are not justifying the efforts of the creator. Okay, now when we see that particular that accessibility and innovation, and then the how probability is that we are proposing that probably patent pool will serve a mechanism to handle this tussle. Because what happened when we started the innovations, we were like following closed innovations, like we are very like not ready to share our innovations. Then we open up, and then the open innovation came, and then the scale of that open innovation is there. Sometimes we are like a completely followed open innovation, sometimes it is partly open. And when we talk about patent pooling, it is like a best combination, we can say, where we are like a appreciating the rights, we are take that instrument of IP is effectively used, and after that interested parties that are coming together, who are like contributed, and then they are creating the patent pool, and then they are giving the licenses also to the that sub licensing, I can say then. So that kind of arrangement is there in the patent pool, and we feel that that will be the effective solution instead of debating on waiver. Probably when we follow patent pool, we feel that yes, we are like giving the rights, we are appreciating the rights of the creator, and also we are like thinking about a social welfare, because the licensing, sub licensing is also there. And if that kind of a scenario will be there, probably we can solve, I guess, this kind of issues. That is our proposal is. Now we have what we have, when we have come to this conclusion, obviously we have done the analysis of the patent pools. We will shortly discuss that patent pool models also. Our proposal is like based on the scrutiny of laws which are governing the patent pool in both developing countries and developed countries. So the, we can say, the benefits and the limitations of patent pools, we have considered both the, we can say, the angles of this particular issue, and we have shared this in the paper which is recently published in a journal, that JWIP, and it is like available for the reading, and we will also share the link for if you want to go into more details about that, we will share, that link is already there. Now when we go into the details of this patent pools, you can just see that COVID-19 scenario, if we closely observe, it was reported in December 19. I quickly just go through the scenario so that we will appreciate that why that discussion is going on at an international level, and WIPO and WHO, that World Health Organization, then this WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, both are like actively working on this, and the deliberations are still going on. So what was happened, that COVID-19, it was first reported in December 2019, and WHO declared it as a pandemic in 2020. Okay. Now we know that there was an open sharing of a genome sequences and pre-access to research subjects, that research papers on this subject, and that helped to understand the gravity of the situation, because immediately that research papers and all, otherwise we are like very stringent about that particular access to the research material, but that free access was like immediately it is opened up, and you can just imagine that was the gravity of the situation. Now this WHO, when we see that the further contributions or further immediate step WHO has taken is like they have released the draft landscape of COVID-19 vaccine, that on 8th December 2020. Then Pfizer, then Moderna, Janssen, then AstraZeneca, Oxford, everybody like they have introduced their vaccines into the market. Like, and then the emergency use approval was like followed, and in December 2020 these vaccines were made available, right. Other statistics is very well aware, we are aware about that, but we will just focus on the IP related. So I will just focus, I will give you the glimpses of that, that WTO that always emphasize the need for a positive efforts to increase the development facilities, and the UN have the, that one of the third goal, we can say, one of the sustainable development goals, that third goal is a like a healthy living and a well-being for all. So considering all this scenario, we can say that the challenge was whether the patent, which was like the whosoever is like owning the patent, whether they should waive the rights. That was the question. So that the proposal was so that everybody will have access in this current scenario where the life threatening kind of scenario is created by the COVID. Now this we can say the healthcare sector investment, if we see in the developing countries, that is not a very promising kind of scenario compared to the developed nations, right. And then obviously there are exceptions to that, and then we can say that the developing countries, if you see that the major, that is a collaborative licensing strategy, that is something proposed, and that is nothing but the patent pool, that whosoever has created that particular that they are working in that, then they should license, that collaborative licensing strategy should be used, and that is the form of that patent pools. Now COVID pandemic, further if we see that 29th May 2020, WHO accepted that the technology access pool, that CTAP, we will talk about this, Shirin will give you the further details about this particular, which was like based on the proposal put forward by Costa Rica. Like, and 40 members, like almost 40 countries endorsed that particular activity or initiative of WHO. When we talk about this patent pool actually, the before going into further details of that, we will just think about the virology part actually. Now, why we are talking about virology part? Because when we see the history of this particular coronavirus related history, if we see, it is observed that when we talk about the similar kind of a pandemics I am talking about, not exactly corona kind of scenario I am talking of. Obviously, there was, but the virology, in a sense, we are going into the details of the structure of a virus, and because of that, the challenges are coming. So, that point just we want to stress up here, that if we see the SARS scenario, here there was like a that structure, if we see the proteins, that cell wall of that particular that virus is like creating the challenge. Now, why that spikes and the changing nature of that particular cell wall is the challenge, and it was like that this virus was like able to easily change that structure, and then the new variants like are like a develop, and then we have to fight against that new variants. Now, first coronavirus, if we see that IBV, it was discovered in long back, that is 1931, and it was like a avian species, just limited to birds and all. Human coronavirus, when we see, that was discovered long back in 1966 and 67. That was the period during which that human coronavirus was like discovered, and the symptoms was like flu-like symptoms, like mild flu-like symptoms were shown by that particular virus. Now, influenza virus also, if we see, it is like a that is also exhibiting that coronavirus like scenario, because it is also having that kind of a that it is again RNA virus, and then they are like a from the group Orthomyxoviridae family. So, we will not go in much details about that particular thing, but the scenario we want to emphasize, why we are giving history, that yes, means if we see the history, such kind of scenario was there. The challenge is like this cell wall, the changing nature of a cell wall, and the scenario is like that. We cannot give guarantee that this scenario may not arise in a later stage, because we never know that if that new variant will come, and if again our system is like if not ready, probably again we may have to face such kind of a scenario. It's a very we will not like expecting that particular thing, but we cannot avoid the possibility of this kind of a thinking also. Why we are just proposing or putting this kind of a scenario, that because of the structure of that virus, okay. And again we say that this spread was so fast, and that was the effect of a globalization. We can say that was a litmus test for the globalization, that how that the free movement is there across the world, and because of that the spread is like very fast. So, that was one of the means another important reason for the immediate or a fast spread of this particular like virus, and we cannot avoid such kind of a scenario in a future also. So, we have to be very if we will be like a prepared, instead of probably we can get some other solution, but at this particular solution, if we think about the patent pool kind of a scenario, probably what will happen, that we can further develop that patent pool system at a international level with some regulations. If something kind of that we will think, instead of a waiver which is like little bit hurting to the creator, we can say that thing, because the lot of efforts they have put for the creation. So, we are like respecting that efforts, and also we are like thinking about social welfare, and when we deliberate into the details of that, we strongly believe that patent pool, if it is in a controlled way. Now, why again controlled way? That is very important, because if patent pool is not controlled, it may move towards a cartel, right? So, we have to be very careful about that particular situation. So, we have also, means when we are proposing this thing, we are also thought about that situation, that there may be like a scenario of a cartel, competitive competition commission, considering if India jurisdiction, that will again come into the picture. So we have to avoid that situation. And to avoid that situation, what we are proposing is that at an international level, WHO, WIPO, WTO, when we are deliberating on this particular scenario, we have to think in these angles, that inventor, creator, investments, social welfare, that is very, very important. That yes, we are like that IP system is like considering that as a prime point. So both the, we can say, the important actors or the stakeholders in the patent system, when we say, these are there. And then